Why I Hate Lists. Written by lilithmaynot. Hear my story until the end and heed my warning, or the list will get you too. Let's be real, No Sleep has a lot of list of rules posts. Lots of people find odd lists of rules and have to deal with the consequences, which are often death by some terrible monster. And No Sleep is the place for them to warn others about the dangers of them. Of course, nobody listens. That's why there's so many. But I listen. I've been so careful ever since I realized how common the issue is. Every list I'm given for a job, even if one of the rules is a little odd, I'm out. I've quit multiple jobs before I even started, when the list of duties they gave me was just a bit off. So careful. And all for nothing. I left my last job at a grocery store after my boss gave me a list that included going into the basement and leaving a loaf of bread in the middle of the room. Very creepy. Not messing with that. When I finally got another job, it wasn't a job that many would find preferable. Word had traveled about me. I was considered a flight risk by employers, and I had a hard time finding anyone to take me anymore. So there I was, a newly hired sewer maintenance worker. I worked with a bunch of other guys. We went into the sewers and repaired things that were broken, kept things from breaking, and sometimes cleaned areas that need it. Before I was hired, the boss had given me a list of duties, rules, that I had to follow. He wanted me to confirm that they were okay by my standards before he hired me on, because I had told him why I left my last job. He seemed very understanding. I looked at the list with apprehension, only to find that they were all perfectly normal. Only 3 rules, and not one of the rules rang my alarm bells. They just seemed like safety rules. I gladly accepted. Finally free of those damn lists that wanted to kill everyone. Rule 1. Wear designated goggles. Of course, we should wear goggles when working in the sewer. We actually had whole body suits, kinda like hazmat suits, to keep all the gross stuff off our bodies. I guess they knew that nobody would want to wade through human feces without the hazmat suit anyway, so they didn't have to make it a rule. Rule 2. Always wear your headlamp. The sewers were dark. If we didn't wear a headlamp, we would definitely get lost, or fall into the sewer water. Ugh. Rule 3. Don't separate from the group. If someone went off on their own in the sewers, there was probably a good chance they would get lost. It's only natural that we would all stick together. My first day on the job went swimmingly. We repaired some pipes, they showed me the ropes of our most common duties, and I got along with the guys really well. You had to be pretty chill to work in a sewer, I think. The next couple of days were fine too. It was on the 5th day I noticed something odd. I took off my goggles because they had fogged up, and waved them around, trying to get the vapor to clear. I looked up from what I was doing and realized that I saw something large and white in the distance, at the end of the sewer pipe. My stomach dropped and I looked towards the guys who were concentrated on fixing a large crack in the wall. Opening my mouth to ask them if they saw it too, one of them looked up at me and I jumped. His eyes looked like they were different. Then he took off his goggles and squinted at me, and I realized it must have just been the glare of my headlamp on his goggles making them look weird. "You okay, Tom?" I looked back down the sewer, seeing nothing now. "Yeah, fine." I pulled my goggles back on and got back to work. A week later, we got another new guy. He seemed like he might be on something, and I had a feeling that, like me, this was the only job he could get, though for different reasons. In the middle of one job, he wandered off, mumbling about how he had to take a piss. Everyone warned him that he would have to be reported and that it was dangerous, but he didn't seem to care. After a while, he hadn't come back, and a small group of us went to look for him. The darkness of the sewer seemed more foreboding without all the guys. Only a few headlamps cutting through it instead of a dozen. We thought we heard footsteps down one of the branches of the main hall and headed that way, having to duck slightly to fit. Why would he have come down here? The water here smelled horrible, even through my mask, and when our headlamps touched it, it looked almost red. It looked like it was empty at first, until one of the guys put out his hand and pointed. Something small was poking out of the water. A bright yellow spot in a sea of grays. He walked over and pulled it out, revealing a boot. A long rubber one, just like the ones all of us were wearing. One like the ones the new guy had been wearing. I felt sick, and everyone else's faces were drawn, almost disappointed looking. One of them mumbled something to the guy next to him, sounding kinda like wasn't ready or something. Before I could ask what he meant, Jason, the one who had found the boot, suggested we take it back and tell them we couldn't find him. They could send out a proper search party later. After that incident, I had a bad feeling in my gut. I wanted to quit, but it was the only job I had kept in years. My wife and family would be so disappointed if I left this one too, especially after making it this long. The pay didn't hurt either. I decided to stay. A decision I would come to regret. I made it another week with no incidents. I had almost chalked up my worry to my imagination. Almost. The next day I came into work. Everyone seemed to be full of nervous energy. Everyone was jumpy, and some seemed like they were excited for something. Maybe they were all going to a party after work or something like that? I told myself. Into the sewers we went, heading into a new direction I hadn't been before. "What's the job today?" I asked after a bit. Everyone had been pretty quiet all day. Definitely weird for a group of guys who usually joked around the whole time we were down here. Nobody answered me. "Guys?" Everyone stopped at once in perfect unison. I stumbled and looked back at them in confusion.
"Initiation,"
they said, their voices twisting in their throats oddly. I knew then I had to get away. I had to run. But as I looked around, I realized they had led me to a large cavern with no other ways leading out but the one they were all standing in front of. As I looked for a way out, bile rose in my throat. The cavern was filthy and dotted with what I thought was trash at first, but I could now see was body parts. I could even see a yellow boot attached to what looked like a severed leg. I felt dizzy.
"Initiation,"
they said again, taking a step towards me and forcing me backwards into deeper water. One of them reached forward and ripped off my headlamp and goggles, and I made to grab them back when the sound of a movement behind me made me turn around. I came face to face with a pale, inhuman figure. Its limbs were long and spindly, and its white eyes blinked at me, with two eyelids like a reptile's. Behind it were dozens more. I turned to run the other way, deciding to take the chance with my former co-workers, but in their places were more of the creatures, wearing the suits that they had just been in. I was trapped. I wish I didn't remember the next parts. And I'll save you from sharing my wish by sparing you the details. I sit at my home computer now, typing this out, and waiting for my wife to get home. This is the last time I will ever be here. Probably one of the few times I will ever leave the sewers again. And I figured I should warn you. Even if the rules seem safe, there's a chance they aren't. Trust nothing and nobody. I have to go now. I can hear my wife opening the front door. This is her last time here too. Good luck.